You're going to find out in this video that the Garden of Eden is not remotely what you thought it was. I was stunned myself. I did this video a little while back demonstrating that Genesis 1 and 2 are totally different versions of creation, which most legitimate Bible scholars absolutely agree with. So we know in Genesis 1 that God made man in our image. So God said, let's make man in our image. So it was a collective creation. Male and females were created together. They were blessed, and they were sent out to be fruitful and multiply. Done. In Genesis 2, the garden is made by the feudal lord, who then makes Adam the weeding slave, who couldn't handle it by himself, so they made slave Eve to help Adam. That's a big difference. They were never told to be fruitful and multiply. Two completely different stories. So who is this feudal lord, and what is this garden that we are told he planted in Eden? Well, we're going to look at the Septuagint here for this purpose. I'll show you real quick where I found this. This is a great Septuagint. You got the English on the left and the Greek on the right. So this is Genesis 2:8, telling us that Theos, God, created the garden in Edem. Doesn't say Eden, it says Edem. This is a mu, so an M. So garden in Eden, a paradison in Eden. And here it says that this paradison tes trufae. That's what it is. It's a paradise tes trufae. What is that? You'll find out in a couple seconds. Stunning. Stunned me. Learned about it in a Lady Babylon video maybe 6 months or a year ago. Okay, and I wasn't sure if it was true or not, so I checked. It's easy to check. You just go right into Perseus, the Greek Word Study Tool, the Blue Letter Bible, lots of places to check these things out. So, paradiso tes trufae. How often does that show up? Well, trufae shows up 18 times. 18 times. Here's the exact language again. In Genesis 3:23, 3:24, and Genesis 2:15. You can see paradisos, trufae. Okay, so what is that? What is that? Well, before I show you what that is, my question would be, why did he call the garden, or why is the garden called a paradiso versus a kepos? See, a kepos is a garden or an orchard or a plantation, any place planted with trees or herbs. Why not call it the kepos en Edem, right? Why not call it the kepos as opposed to paradisos? Well, there's a reason for it, it turns out, as you'll see. So paradiso means pleasure ground. First and foremost, a pleasure ground. Persian kings and nobles. Pleasure ground. Pleasure ground. So pleasure ground is very different than a garden for planting trees and harvesting vegetation, right? Very different language. So we are told here that Eden is a paradise of trufae. It's a pleasure ground of trufae. Well, what's trufae? Well, from the Blue Letter Bible, we are told that trufae means to do what? Enfeeble the mind and body by indulgence. Eden is a pleasure ground of indulgence that enfeebles the body and mind. Did you know that? I had no idea. So here we have pleasure ground, and this is from the lexicon that all the Bible scholars tell us to use. The biggest, most thorough Greek English lexicon there is, the Liddell, Scott, and Jones. So we got our pleasure ground of what? Licentiousness and waxing wanton. That's what trufae means. To live softly, luxuriously, fair, sumptuously, effeminate, luxurious, dainty, delicate, to be licentious and extravagant. The Garden of Eden is actually a pleasure ground of sexual immorality, according to the words. Did you know that? I had no idea. So if we go looking for the word trufae in the New Testament, it shows up twice And then the Bible Hub gives us the definition of trufae. Again, what do we see? Effeminate luxury, softness, indulgent living. Kind of like Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Enfeeble, especially the body and mind, by indulgence. Look at this moral and spiritual breakdown. So the Garden of Eden is a pleasure ground of moral and spiritual enfeeblement. That's what the Garden of Eden translates into if you look at the exact words from the original Greek. So we definitely know that the Garden of Eden is not what we thought it was. The Garden of Eden is a pleasure ground of indulgence and moral enfeeblement.